And the good news is that I actually know this topic, so this is great. All right, start the webinar. I'm going to start the webinar. And we're going to start lighting up all of the channels. So, hey, everybody, we're going to start to get some people in here. Hi, it's Mike from Procurement Foundry. Last session of the week. It's Friday. We don't do very many Friday sessions, so I'm excited about this one. We'll get the folks from Park Place Technologies here. We're going to be talking about managing infrastructure cost management strategies in a second. I'm just lighting up all of the some of the streaming that we do, so restreaming onto LinkedIn Live and Twitter Live and Facebook Live and all those other things that we do at Procurement Foundry to make sure that we try to get the most people possible, the best information possible to try to optimize their costs. And today we're talking around technology sector costs. Don't worry about Michael. He's slightly in the matrix, but we're good to go. His background, he's got a lot of sun behind him, so his background is kind of teetering, which is kind of cool. It's kind of like he's Johnny Mnemonic. Tina, you're in the background in the control room as usual. Can you tell me whether or not we're live on LinkedIn or not?
We are.
Awesome, great. So that means that the restreaming technology that I pay a ridiculous amount of money for is actually working today. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to make some quick housekeeping notes, and then we're going to go to we're going to jump in and do some introductions, and we're going to talk really quickly. So quick housekeeping: if you're here and you're live in the studio audience, which is inside of our Zoom room, and you've registered and you're here, you are what we call live studio audience. So feel free to engage, chat with us, tell us where you're from. We'd love to hear from you, and also tell us if you've got questions while we're talking. I tend to be one of those people that likes to throw it right into the meat grinder as we're going. I don't like to wait for questions at the end. Talk to Kathy and Michael about that as well, and they're excited about that as well. If you are watching us on LinkedIn Live, on the LinkedIn live stream, Tina's monitoring that. If you have a question from the LinkedIn Live universe, feel free to post it in the comments. Tell us also where you're from. We'd love to hear where you're from on that. And if you have a question there, Tina will transcribe that over to us in the chat so that we know what your question is from the LinkedIn universe. All right, so that's it. We're going to chop it up for about 30 minutes today with Kathy and Michael. We had an amazing pre-run on this one, and I'm really excited about this because this is, as most of you know, this is in my strike zone. I'm actually a technology sourcing guy by trade. So this I'm actually very, very comfortable in. So let's start with this. Park Place Technology, folks, as you all know, Park Place Technology is one of the most recent permanent residence partners of Procurement Foundry. They help us keep the community going. We thank them very much for their support. And we want to talk a little bit about IT infrastructure cost management strategies today. We've got Kathy and Michael with us. I never do introductions because I always get them wrong. So I will start with ladies first. Maybe Kathy, you can tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your role at Park Place. And then Michael, you can follow up and just give us a quick overview of Park Place. Because I know everybody knows who Park Place is, but I think there's so much that Park Place does that a lot of people don't know about. So maybe we can cover some of that as well.
Sure.
Kathy,
Great.
you want to go first?
I do. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Happy Friday, by the way.
Oh yeah, happy Friday, everyone. I am Kathy Lyons, and I am the EVP and GM of the Parkview division at Park Place Technologies. And that means I own Parkview managed services across all of IT infrastructure, storage, network, server, etc., as well as our award-winning Intuity network management and monitoring software. I've been at Park Place about 3 years, and before that, I consulted in IT orgs, and before that, I spent about 25 years in high tech across IT, customer support, and engineering. And thank you very much for having me today.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathy. Really appreciate your time here on a Friday afternoon. Michael, how about yourself? Tell us a little about what you do at Park Place and a little bit more about Park Place and the different products that you guys do.
Will do. Thanks, Mike. And happy Friday to everybody. Kathy, well done. Michael Vetta, I am our global sales lead for Park Place. I've been here for about 2 years. Prior to Park Place Technologies, I spent a whole host of time at a major OEM. And then prior to that, I actually spent close to 8 years gallivanting around the world. I spent some time in Tokyo. I spent some time in London. But I was with an organization that sold computer-aided design and manufacturing software to discrete manufacturers. So I've been in the industry about 27 years.
Really, really cool.
Yeah.
And as we know, and we touched on this recently, We have what I thought really interesting about Park Place when I finally met you again, not necessarily as a client of Park Place from years ago on third-party maintenance, is not only do you have third-party maintenance, but you also have the professional services now. You've got managed services with the infrastructure. You've got the Intuity product that we talked about, and we've got Curvature, which is kind of like your hardware, your used secondary hardware market. But some really exciting news from Tuesday, right? So Tuesday on the wire, there was a big announcement that you have a new acquisition. Can either of you tell me about the acquisition and where it fits into the mold?
Yeah, I would love to. So it is a software product. It's called Store First, and it's OEM agnostic and facilitates data migrations and information management. And we're very excited to fold this into our software division.
Wow, fits right into the rest of the product set, huh?
It does. It actually, it fits right into the product set, not only for our software, but it facilitates our data migrations and professional services.
Yeah, exactly.
So really around the file system. So it's a great fit. Yeah, we're very excited about it.
Yeah, sometimes you hear about these acquisitions and it's like, geez, I don't know where they're going with that, right? It doesn't, I don't see how it fits into the puzzle, but that seems to be a perfect new puzzle piece to the ongoing portfolio of Park Place. So listen, we get about 23 minutes left. I want to try and keep this to 30 minutes today. I know I'm going to run over because I always do. But I want to talk about infrastructure cost management strategies because let's be honest, this is something that IT organizations have been struggling with since the day we all left the mainframe and started building data centers, right?
Right.
And even after that, I know our cost structure back in the day, I had a massive raised floor with AS400s on it and things like that. Back in the day, I'll just say COBOL. How's that? Does everybody know how old I am? Great.
You're getting a little dated now, Mike.
Yeah. COBOL and AS400s. You know, if you know that, give me a private DM. All right. So infrastructure cost management strategies date back, a couple of decades now. And it's still kind of a Rubik's Cube, right? I mean, people aren't necessarily doing this. They're still not doing it great, right? So let's talk for a couple of seconds about what is contributing to the fact that this is such a difficult thing to do. And Kathy, let's start with you on that, maybe.
Yeah, I would love to, because I am a true IT person. So it's not that we don't understand IT cost management, exactly to what you're saying, Michael, but it is challenging, and it's like an uphill battle, right? Because you talked about the AS400s and the raised floors. We still have customers out there with AS400s and they're working just fine, right? That was always, that's going to go away. The mainframes were going to go away. Things don't go away. So it becomes more challenging because you want to have the new technology, right? You want to be able to support your business. You want to enable the business. You want to get them to be as efficient as possible, whether it's their go-to-market, their financials, their ERPs. So you need the newer technology, but you're still dependent on the older technology. So you have a base of infrastructure that you have to support, keep the lights on. So you have that, and then you're continuously adding to it with new initiatives. And then as time goes on, everybody was going to go to the cloud, and then some went to the cloud, most went there somewhat, right? And then you start looking at, did I get the cost savings out of the cloud? Now I've got a hybrid environment. And then if you go most recently to the past couple of years, right? The pandemic comes along and everybody now is remote. So you have to then support these remote workers. You've got more investment to do that. Now we're coming out of the pandemic, hopefully, and you've got a lot of pent up demand. So you're really battling it on both sides, production support, and let's keep the business going. Let's be successful. And I think that's the struggle with cost management and supporting the overall business.
Yeah, it seems to me, Michael, that it's some type of a delicate dance between the stability of what you have in place today, and you've spent 7 years perfecting your data center, so it's a well-oiled piece of machinery. Right. But in the 7 years that you've done that, it's now become almost an outdated piece of machinery. And do you want to upset the apple cart, even though it's starting to get to be pretty expensive apple cart, and you want to stay innovative at the same time? So if you're a CIO and or a category manager in this space, it's a challenge as to when you want to move, when you want to start to deploy some of that innovation and things like that, right?
Absolutely. There's been, forever since I've been doing this, we'll call it 27 to 30 years. There's always been this focus on do more with less, right? And that's always going to be a focus for IT. And there's this dynamic where IT used to be looked at from their leadership as a cost center in a sense, right? And we've been transforming, IT has been transforming into a value add back to the business. And to do that, it's all focused on optimization of, and in your example, Michael, that 7-year infrastructure that you now have and you're afraid to potentially change. And so, that takes me into what I like to message to our customers and those that we work with quite a bit is about infrastructure lifecycle management, right? And that's what I think we can bring to the table with what we do every day and all the solutions that we have to offer. So that do more with less is never going away. And then Kathy mentioned it, with the world we're living in today, the challenges have just gotten even harder, right? The supply chain is challenged more than ever.
Yep, absolutely.
The resources, there's, the whole great resignation it's really challenged folks, especially in IT, to continue with their strategy to add value back to the business, but they're stuck with some of these new things that are coming down their path.
Yeah. And it seems to me that at least, I don't know, in the circles that I run in, that this is changing a little bit from a cost optimization thing. I know we're talking about cost management strategies, but the other thing too that's happening too is some people are starting to be like, hey, listen, the cost is almost second to me now, versus just basic survival. And Kathy, I think you touched on that very quickly,
Right.
which is, okay, listen, yeah, it costs more, but I just got to keep the lights blinking. I got to keep the thing going. We've got hybrid cloud solutions now and storage and lakes, and I'm doing IO here and storage here. And man, my network is freaked out because I used to have to build these huge infrastructure networks, and I went from multiple T3s. Now I got 6 people in the office during the week. What do I do with that because of remote learning? This is becoming more of a business continuity and risk avoidance conversation than cost. Yeah. And I know the title of this session is cost management strategies, but it's almost as if the overarching strategy is starting to morph as well, right?
Yeah, and you know what I would say, rather than the cost management, I think it's the investment strategy. And I think that's where you're going, Michael, right? Because we're always going to keep the lights on. That's terrific. But it's actually looking at your entire infrastructure, categorizing it by, critical supportive applications, down to business enabling, down to reporting or backup or test environments. And do I treat them all equally? Where do I want to invest my dollars? And we're talking about, do we upgrade? And I saw someone threw in that they have an AS400 into the notes there, which you don't necessarily have to upgrade, right? If it's doing the job, but how do you treat that? How do you make sure that you're supporting it? It's staying up and going, while over here you invest in some of the newer technology. And then how do you do it with the resources you have? Because they're highly skilled, they're expensive, and I think we just touched upon it, right? There is this great resignation where some people are leaving the business for, what they perceive to be greener pastures, but there's also an aging resource, like myself, that would say, perhaps they're retiring, but they're the ones who are overseeing your older technology. So I think it's looking at the budget, understanding what you have, and determining where you need to invest. And then in doing that, where do you make the dollar bring back the most return? What do I need to do internally? What do I need my experts working on? What keeps them jazzed to work on it? Versus, do I go to a partner? Do I look over to Michael Vetta and say, help me with third-party maintenance, help me with managed services or professional services to deploy some of the stuff, or do my data migrations, that kind of thing. But it's really end-to-end understanding what you have and where the top priorities lay within your infrastructure in support of your business initiatives.
Yeah, I like the idea that you call it the investment strategy versus cost management, right?
Right.
Cost management to me is really about, okay, I'm trying to get a widget per widget cost down per
Yeah.
CPU or per spindle, or I mean that's 2004, right? When I was buying big iron and putting it in a data center on a raised floor
Mhm.
and things like that. And I was really, really worried about cost management. And now, and it seems kind of tactical looking back at it now compared to holistic strategy. And it's like, okay, listen, I almost need you to be an investment management strategist on my behalf
Yeah.
across a number of different services that that calculate my total cost of ownership, as opposed to just the cost of my IO or the cost of my storage or the cost of, my labor pool, right? Which we talked about last time Park Place was on, which is, part of the services that you offer, which is outsourced service management, right? In the labor pool. And yeah, okay, maybe it's not cheaper to hire somebody inside, but again, I would argue that because a lot of people don't budget properly when they do. Most CIOs and CPOs, when they run their P&L, they don't factor in total cost of weighted employees and
Yeah.
hiring and all that other stuff. And I'm like, listen, I don't care unless your P&L is super tight. I'm guaranteed you're not capturing all the costs. So anyway, I
Well,
love the idea of
yeah.
investment strategy. And Michael, let's talk really quickly. Let's talk about some of the different strategies, the holistic strategies that people are deploying with Park Place, and clients that are probably using you for 2, 3, 4 different lines of business, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And again,
Absolutely.
taking a look at it more holistically and saying, okay, I'm not going to worry about the cost of equipment. I'm going to worry about the whole thing as a total cost.
Right. And I'll leverage that investment strategy approach here, right? It's a great message. I talked earlier about, IT used to be seen as that cost center, but with our audience being primarily procurement here, it's a good marriage from an investment perspective, right? So if IT can articulate where they can leverage organizations like Park Place to help keep the lights on, in a sense. You mentioned that earlier, Michael, or Kathy did. And so if we can help organizations help keep the lights on, then the IT departments can give back. They can give that value back and focus on additional investment strategies, whether it's around things like, today what we're seeing is a lot of people, I'm hearing people call them the ABC strategies or technologies around big data, right? Around AI and certainly around cybersecurity. So if IT can be focusing on that while we're keeping the lights on, it's a win-win situation, all while managing cost. So back to your question about Park Place here, right? It's more than just third-party maintenance, right? We've got this suite of infrastructure managed services that focus on asset discovery, network, server, and storage management, and then these professional service offerings, right? You mentioned pre-owned hardware, and we take it all the way through asset disposition. So if we can help do those types of tasks on a daily basis and take that off the plate of the IT organization, they can then go concentrate on that investment strategy and those ABC technologies that I mentioned. So that's where we come into play. And I can tell you a little quick story here. There's a couple of organizations that truly see us as this value-added partner from cradle to grave. And I say it that way because we work with these organizations in their production environment, monitoring and managing and doing event management for them all the way through post-warranty. And then we're here to help from a network and server and storage management perspective, right? So that's where they get the value from us to focus on something better for their customers and their clients.
Yeah, I love the idea of procurement, IT category managers who are thought of as very tactical people,
right?
From the technologists, right? And Kathy said, I'm a tech IT. I like to tell everybody I speak geek, but I'm not a geek, and I say that with all the love and affection in the world for the geeks because I know they rule the world, right? So I can engage in with them, but at the same time, and I can translate geek into CFO, which I think is probably one of my most versatile skill sets. And I think that what I think is really interesting here is if you do this the right way, you almost become a funding center as a procurement technologist, as a technology category manager. Because if you think about this for a second, think about what your line item is for third-party maintenance in the data center, right? And then think about what your depreciating asset cost is against capital acquisition, right? And yeah, okay, listen, we all went to the cloud. Now we're coming back to hybrid because some stuff it's on-site, off-site. You know, regardless of whether we're processing on the edge or not, we're still going to have data networks and security and things like that. If you take, I'm just going to throw some numbers out. If I take 30% right off the top of third-party maintenance, and I take another 25 to 30% off for secondhand market hardware, because of the portfolio of used hardware that you can now offer into that category, right there, that's enough money to fund 2 to 3 new IT projects that are going to be coming down the plate for you. I mean, it's an amazing position to be in if you're an IT category manager, to be able to go, hey, listen, I know based on our early discussions what your project portfolio is for 2022. I'm realigning the stars with somebody like a Park Place to be able to leverage 2 or 3 different functionalities there. Oh, and by the way, we're going to offset a little bit of labor cost here, move it from labor cost to blinky light keep on, to new innovative strategies on how we're going to deploy blockchain into our architecture or something along that lines, right? Like, let's take tactical money and turn it into smart money, and let the, and I want to say this with all the love and affection in the world for you, let the people who can handle the day-to-day operations, you become much more innovative. And to be the conduit for that as a procurement person, and start to be one of the smartest people in the room, is essential for procurement people, right? I see you both nodding. I'm going to stop and let you guys just throw that out there.
Because I just wanted to add on the thing within IT with that, right? You're saving costs. So the key there is so you can invest somewhere else in one of these strategic initiatives
Exactly.
where your IT resources want to be, right? So you strengthen the partnership because you're actually giving them back some what they consider better projects to be on than keeping the lights on. The other thing is, with some of the offerings that Michael Vetta talked about, is when we go across all of the OEMs, we're actually able to save money because we're able to report back out through our portals back to the customer what you have, what the status of your assets are, how they're performing, and it's one monitoring tool. So you don't have the plethora of monitoring tools that afterwards goes up to a management layer and tries to bring them all together into one report to say, this is how my overall infrastructure is performing, whether it's over a month, a week, or whatever the time is, but it's real time within the portal. And we go across all of the OEMs in your infrastructure. So it's really a benefit there. It saves administrative tasks. A lot of IT people aren't that excited about administrative tasks and reporting. So it saves on that because you no longer have to go to all the different monitoring tools, bring back that information to find out how they performed, what their uptime was, to put into your management reports or escalation reports, because you have ability to come right onto our portal and see that within our Central Park, our customer portal. So it does save time that way as well. I just wanted to add on to Michael's.
Yeah, and Michael, that's what makes Tuesday really interesting, right? Because all of a sudden now you acquire a company that does data migration. And it's funny, I was in a conversation on Tuesday night in New York City with some folks that do technology sourcing for a living. And somebody said to me, how do you negotiate something you've negotiated 3 times from a software or hardware maintenance perspective? And I said, listen, technology is really easy. Either it's kind of like electricity at my house with my teenage children. I can either go negotiate with Con Edison to lower my cost per kilowatt hour, or I can turn around and shut off some of the lights and don't have to pay them, right? Same thing with data center management. I mean, that's why you guys are in the data center management space, is to optimize and shut off some of the lights that, hey, somebody loaded up a database inside of maybe a cloud service provider and went away for the weekend, and all of a sudden on Labor Day weekend, you don't realize that there's a SQL server burning through and you're about to get a $50,000 bill, right? And that's what maintenance and management and of infrastructure related costs is. You don't want to burn through that. But then at the same time, when you do find efficiencies and the ability to be able to consolidate things and lower costs, now you just acquired a company that does data center migration. It fits perfectly into the equation, in my opinion.
Well, think about that. Data center migration usually, and data migration is it's not usually, it's always event-based. right? It's not an everyday task that an IT organization will be going through. And so
No.
from a core competency perspective, why would you ever want your IT department to be doing that, right?
No.
And so if that can be part of our heavy lift for you, so you can focus on what's more important to the business, then it's a great partnership.
I gotta be honest with you, from a chief procurement officer perspective and a guy who used to be a VP of IT, the reason why I would bring you and hire you in is for plausible deniability
I was going to say,
purposes.
you want to, yeah, you want to
Right?
make this
I want to be able to look at
accountable.
you and go, hey man, I didn't screw this up. The
Totally.
procurement team hired these guys and they screwed it up. Right? So
Amen.
I don't want to get fired. I want to fire somebody who screwed this up and then go pick the next
Right.
person who's going to screw it up, because most likely is going to get screwed up. Right? But the fact that you have an expertise and the fact that you're doing this on a regular basis is absolutely spot on.
Right.
You don't do data migrations of core systems more than once every 5 to 7 years, maybe, right?
There's more and more every day though, Michael, now with how flexible these strategies are, and certainly with the challenges of the world that it is today with supply chain and everything else, it's happening more than those of us that have been in the industry for a long time. It used to only be that 3 to 5 to 7 years like you're describing. But
so is there not the lock-in? Are you telling me that proper management of this reduces lock-in scare for procurement people like me?
It's a pretty good thought, Michael. It's a pretty good thought.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me, because
Yeah.
if I've got the right partner in this space and I can use that as a negotiation tactic to be able to walk away from cloud provider A and go to cloud provider B, or to go from SQL to MySQL, or to go from, NetSuite to something else or something like that. That's a big negotiation strategy from a technology sourcing perspective. Is, usually our opinion is, yeah, we're going to negotiate this once and then IT is never going to move away from it, right? Yeah. But if you're telling me that's not the way that it is today, that's amazing.
Right. Those are the old days. Michael, can I bring us back to a comment here real quickly, because I think it's important, and I want to give you a different angle on, I sit on the sales side of the table, if you will. Kathy's on the IT side, and our audience is primarily procurement. And I want to tell you why, in my years, why I want procurement to be involved earlier in the cycle of validating technologies, or just, we'll call it the sales cycle, okay? Because of what we all just described about being strategic, so that they can understand what we can do with the IT team to help relieve some duties, to help drive down cost, to help allow for strategies to be put in place that will help that organization be more competitive in whatever they do. And so if the procurement people are involved with IT earlier on, there's a tremendous amount more value and understanding of what's trying to be accomplished than typically just getting involved at the end. And it's a different focus at that point.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. And listen, that's one of the biggest struggles in procurement in corporate America. And it's not IT. Right. It's IT, it's HR, it's facilities, it's marketing. Absolutely. I mean, and believe it or not, this is going to sound ridiculous. The IT people tend to bring in the procurement people a lot earlier. I mean, you want to talk about people who bring you in at the last minute? Marketing brings you in at the last, if they bring you in at all, right? I mean, I feel so bad for the people who are responsible for marketing as a category, because they're like, what do you mean? You already cut the check. Now you want me to try and help you save money? All right. I want to go back to, there's a question from the audience. Donald says, how is access to OEM software updates and upgrades made available through your TPM offerings? Are there any limitations through the TPM model in moving away from direct OEM software support arrangements? Sorry, that's a mouthful. So which one of you would like to try and maybe tackle that?
So do you want me to take it?
Sure.
Kathy, ladies first, go for it.
Anything I miss, Michael, you jump in. So we have two offerings around supporting the OEM infrastructure. One is the third-party maintenance, and we have the capabilities across all of the large ones, the majority of them, we're qualifying them every day to be able to service them, to be able to use any tools we need to be able to service them from a hardware perspective. When we have the hardware monitoring through our monitoring, we actually are able to determine which part is failing, and then we immediately dispatch someone to replace it. So that's on the third-party maintenance. The other area where we do maintain, manage the infrastructure for our customers is with the managed services. And there, we actually are able to apply the patches and upgrades for our customers. We do not supply the patch. They would have a license that they would own for the software, the operating system on the server storage network device. But we have the skills, the capabilities, and we are able to first research what the issue is, determine which patch needs to be applied, and then apply the patch. And that's part of our managed service offerings across infrastructure. So it's in two places, and we do it every day, and we do it across the 21,000 plus, probably 22,000 now customers that we have.
Again, another reason why I want plausible deniability, right? Is patches only get deployed on not on a very regular basis. And I threw up the slide around all the different managed service providers that you do patch deployment for. So I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to get OEM third-party maintenance from you. And yes, that is definitely part of the legacy of Park Place. But the other reality is that, hey, on your own stuff where you are getting OEM patch, we do that as well. And by the way, we do that every day. So unlike your internal team, which might only do Dell EMC patchwork once every 12 months, we're doing it every week for all of our portfolio people. So we know if there's a new key touch sequence that needs to take place, or there's a new step in the process that you're not going to catch that we caught. I think that knowledge base is key, right, Michael?
That was a great commercial for us. So thank you. That's exactly right. You know, no, it's fantastic because we do it every day, as you described. And part of our value to the IT organization is, you know, an assessment approach that we have. And it's not always a homogeneous environment. It's most of the time heterogeneous. It's all over the place. And because of it, our assessment work will say, here's what you should do with these types of devices, or here's how we'll help you handle these devices. Yes, this one does need a software upgrade before we do what we're going to do with it. Or, and I think it was, you said Donald who answered the question, you know, there are, you know, generally available, publicly available software upgrades in most cases, right? So it's not always a situation where you're locked in from an OEM perspective if you're going into that post-warranty world. So that, you said it, Michael, the value is that we do this every day. It's usually a heterogeneous environment. And so we'll help you build that strategy of how you go through that lifecycle management.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Microsoft operating system has a new patch every day, right? But you don't let your end users actually deploy the patches, because your call center is going to get blown up if you do that, because God knows what else they might have layered in at some point in time. And and that's why the
dependencies will kill you.
Yeah, the interdependencies will kill you if you don't know those nuances. And again, if you're not doing it all the time, the devil's in the details there. And then you're walking in and you're firing some of your staff. I've been down that path. I understand it. Kathy, you know, I saw you.
Oops, sorry, Michael.
No, I was just saying, IT doesn't even want to do it. It's not what they want to be doing.
It's not strategic.
Right.
It's not strategic anymore. This is table stakes operating materials that you should be putting down and letting, in my opinion, letting organizations with plausible deniability take care of this. It's, you know, so that you can raise the bar. Your procurement organization can work with your IT organization, and together you can start thinking about, okay, how do we bring more value? How do I become a value proposition in a revenue generation model versus just an outlay of cash? 100%.
And the only other thing I wanted to add on to that was, and it may just be coincidental the way the question was written, but it was direct to the OEM. We also, whether in warranty or out of warranty, will take on that role of working with the OEM to either set up third-party maintenance or contact them to get a patch on your behalf. So we kind of take that out, because the going back and forth with the OEM in a traditional manner takes a lot of time away from your IT resources. And it goes right along with, they don't want to investigate patches. They don't want to be on the phone with the OEM. So we would take that, we would automate it through monitoring, and then we would be the one contacting the OEM on our customer's behalf. So we find that that's quite popular.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, just a quick question for you. We're out of time. We're already over time. I want this. I always end this way. Kathy, I'm gonna start with Kathy and I'll go to Michael. Listen, this isn't a lot of time to try and digest what we just talked about, right? If there is a takeaway that the folks that are gonna watch this and are watching right now can have, what is one takeaway that they should take away from this 30-minute session around IT infrastructure cost management, or I'll say investment management, because I like that much
Right.
better.
Right,
What is the one thing, Kathy, that, and that might be it, that might be the takeaway. But Kathy,
It
what
is.
is your one takeaway for today?
I think, thank you, Michael, for the investment strategy. I think take a look at your methodology and strategy with procurement and IT across your entire infrastructure. Look at it from your most important, your critical infrastructure down to your backup and disaster recovery, and figure out what the cost model should be at each. And do you have trusted partners along the entire, I'm going to go back to Michael's, from, you know, cradle to grave, from the infrastructure life cycle. Do you have trusted partners along the way that can not only bring your costs down so that you have investment dollars elsewhere, but that you are super confident aren't going to let you down? Because it doesn't work if you don't have the right partner. And I would say to bring that into the conversations, whether it's a new initiative or you're looking at your entire infrastructure to determine, you know, what should be the strategy across also your production and your test environments today.
Mm-hmm. Michael?
You know what, first of all, thanks. It's been a pleasure. It's been fantastic. And it went fast, I'll tell you that. To put a bow on it, if I could speak to the procurement audience, I would say your question to IT should be, walk me through what your infrastructure lifecycle management is. What's your strategy? Let me listen and potentially help with that. And for all the reasons we talked here today for the last 35 minutes. But that's the question from procurement to IT. Talk me through your lifecycle management strategy from an infrastructure perspective.
I might even take it one step further. I would say to the procurement technology category managers and chief procurement officers that are out there on indirect spend right now, I would say that your CIO in your technology division is looking to you to be your internal strategic consultant on this space. And I think one of the things that you probably need to do is you probably need to act like a consultancy more than just an order taker. And you need to be coming into the door thinking about what the lifecycle management strategy should be based on your knowledge of the market and the availability of the products and the service offerings that are available. And if you don't know what is available from a holistic total cost of ownership perspective from companies like Park Place, then you're probably doing a misservice to your technology client, who is the IT CIO, right? Because he's got all sorts of other things he's got to worry about. He's got a bunch of people breathing down his neck about being the most innovative department in the company. He doesn't have time to think about the lifecycle management strategy associated with some of, quite candidly, the mundane costs. That's your job. Your job is to figure out strategies associated with how to best manage the category of spend associated with your client. So I would say it's okay to say, hey, let's tap the brakes here and talk strategy as opposed to tactical, and bring these innovative ideas like what we were talking about today to that meeting. Attempt to be the smartest person in the room when you start talking about lifecycle management and the holistic management of what's happening inside of your IT infrastructure. Kathy, Michael, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate your time on a Friday. Appreciate it so much. I think we could have spoken probably for another hour and a half on this. And I look forward to the next time we get together and talk. But it was great. I always learn something new when I have the folks from Park Place on the phone. Just quick thing. How do people get in touch with you if they want to? I know you're inside of the Procurement Foundry. I know you've got an active channel inside of the Procurement Foundry. I know you're probably going to follow up with the folks that were on LinkedIn. A couple of other comments that we didn't get to today, but if people want to get in touch with you, you're on LinkedIn. I can't imagine Michael's hard to find as the head of sales for Park Place.
I hope I'm not. No, LinkedIn is great. Certainly through the Procurement Foundry. Our website is fantastic. It'll facilitate any message right to the right person. And so we're here to listen. We're here to help.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate it. Great content today and lots of value. And please be well.
Yeah, you too. Be safe out there, everyone.
Michael.
All right.
Take care, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Take care.